Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started. Today, we are undertaking a really monumental deep dive. We're looking into the sources covering the life and career of James Baldwin. And we're not just, listing dates and facts. We're trying to trace the evolution of his voice.
Exactly. That brilliant, incredibly sensitive voice
Yeah.
from Harlem all the way to the global stage. That's the mission, really. Think of it like mapping his journey, his soul almost.
Yeah.
Every big decision, every key relationship, every trip abroad. They were these emotional turning points.
Right, and they fueled his writing.
Completely. We're falling in that path chronologically to get a handle on not just what he wrote, but maybe why he had to write it exactly that way.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Those foundational moments. Fear, vulnerability.
Yeah, the sources point to a really startlingly sensitive childhood. I mean, nearly drowning when he was just 4 or 5, saved by his older stepbrother, Sam.
Wow. And then that terrifying event, the circumcision around the same age.
Yeah, very visceral experiences of feeling exposed right from the start.
And that personal fragility, it gets compounded almost immediately by, racism.
Oh, absolutely. The sources mention that chilling incident when he was only 10.
The two Harlem patrolmen.
Mm-hmm. Frisked him in an empty lot, made these awful jokes about his ancestry, his sexuality.
And just left him there.
Yeah, just left him on the ground. I mean, that's a brutal lesson in powerlessness for a kid. Shattering.
But even in Harlem, he did find some allies, didn't he? People who offered some hope.
Yes, thankfully. Like Bill Miller, a white teacher, a Communist Party member, actually.
She taught him about poverty. And there's that amazing story, the ice cream incident.
Oh, right, where the police were giving free ice cream only to white kids? And she just wasn't having it.
Yeah.
Stood her ground until the officers gave in and gave ice cream to the black children she was with, too.
That must have taught him something about standing up.
Definitely. Though, as Baldwin noted, she couldn't really teach him about blackness itself. But the really key mentor for his writing career, you could argue, was Herman Porter.
His black teacher at Frederick Douglass Junior High.
Exactly. Porter saw the genius in him right away. Made him editor-in-chief of the school paper, the Douglass Pilot.
And that was a huge deal, wasn't it? Because of the bullying.
Massive. It apparently silenced those sissy taunts from classmates almost overnight.
It shifted how people saw him.
Yeah, from this sort of vulnerable kid to an intellectual leader,
So Porter opens this door to a literary life. But then that's immediately challenged by his father, David Baldwin.
Oh, yeah. Deeply religious. Very controlling figure.
The sources mention Porter took James to the New York Public Library.
Right, for research.
And his father accused Porter of exposing him to books by white devils.
Yeah. Talk about conflict. His intellect pulling one way, his home life pulling another. Very acute.
And that conflict just intensified, didn't it? Around age 14.
It did. There was this crucial encounter, as the sources call it. A man lured him into a hallway.
Made a rent in my short Boy Scout pants. That phrasing is chilling.
It really is. And his response was this intense turn towards religion.
Like hyper-religious.
Totally. Fiercely devout. Apparently even more so than his friend Arthur Moore. Praying, studying the Bible constantly.
Trying to suppress something.
Trying to suppress that emerging sexual identity, it seems.
But it's fascinating that his real artistic breakthrough didn't come from religion in the end.
No, it came from music, sound.
Thanks to the painter Buford Delaney.
Right. Buford introduced him to jazz, to blues, Louis Armstrong, Bessie Smith, Ella Fitzgerald. And more than just listening, he taught him how to really hear it. The language within the music.
Baldwin himself said that later, didn't he?
He did. He realized, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, when I realized that music rather than American literature was really my language, I was no longer afraid. And then I could really write.
Wow. So he needed that connection to a Black American art form.
Seems like it. To find his authentic voice, maybe outside the standard European literary box.
This whole intense period, it kind of culminates in more trauma, really.
Yeah, his father, David Baldwin, dies August 3rd, 1943.
The day after James's 19th birthday.
Right. And Baldwin goes to the funeral, feeling sick, drunk.
While the preacher is describing his father as this thoughtful Christian man.
And Baldwin sitting there knowing the eulogy is just completely disconnected from the man he actually knew.
Yeah.
It just solidified that emotional distance.
So after his father's death, he gets this Rosenwald Foundation Fellowship.
And uses it to finally move downtown. Greenwich Village, 1944.
But the village wasn't some kind of paradise, was it?
Far from it. He described it as racially, Vicious?
Still facing harassment, getting thrown out of places like the San Remo.
Yeah, the same humiliation he faced in Harlem, it just followed him downtown. No escape, really.
And emotionally, things were still incredibly turbulent.
Deepening, yeah.
Yeah.
During that time in the Village, his close friend, Eugene Worth.
Committed suicide. Off the George Washington Bridge, winter 46.
Right. And that just haunted Baldwin. Deeply.
He felt responsible, didn't he?
He did. Expressed profound guilt later, wished they'd been lovers, felt he'd somehow hastened him to his death.
Just layers upon layers of guilt and trauma.
Absolutely. So New York, with the racism, the guilt over Eugene, it becomes unbearable.
Which leads to Paris.
Exactly. He leaves November 11th, 1948. But even that felt complicated. He said the departure stank of betrayal.
Arrives in Paris, meets Richard Wright almost immediately.
And then promptly loses his duffel bag with all his unfinished manuscripts.
Oh my God. Chaos.
Total chaos. But you get the sense that literal distance, getting away, was just necessary for his survival at that point.
And it's in Paris, while he's broken sick, that he writes that first major critical piece.
Everybody's protest novel, yeah, published in Zero.
Where he really takes apart Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Mm-hmm. Basically defining what he thought fiction shouldn't be. Sentimental, self-righteous. It was him staking his claim, setting out his own artistic territory against the established tradition.
But Paris wasn't a total escape from oppression either, was it? There was that prison incident.
Right. That really shows racism wasn't just an American issue. He gets arrested, thrown in this Paris prison with Themistocles' hiatus. He described it as a great enclosed shed full of the scrapings off the Paris streets.
And that experience made him feel like running away was pointless.
Yeah, like it was the cruelest trick. He realized he couldn't just escape these huge structures of oppression by crossing an ocean. They were everywhere.
But this crisis kind of leads to a breakthrough relationship, doesn't it?
It does. He meets Lucien Happersberger, a young Swiss guy, at a place called Le Fiacre.
And Baldwin felt Lucien was the one.
The one who would force him to deal with myself,
Hmm.
especially his sexuality, which he felt was trapped by the trap of color.
Their initial bond was platonic.
Yeah, fraternal at first.
Yeah.
But then it evolved, became this complex thing with Mary Painter as well, sort of a threesome.
And that emotional openness, that complexity, maybe that's what he needed.
It seems like it was the foundation for the big creative breakthrough, which happened, strangely enough, in Switzerland.
Loesch-les-Bains,
Yeah.
summer of 1950. Total isolation.
Right, surrounded by white snow, white mountains, and white faces.
And somehow that isolation let him reconnect with that Negro speech, the sound he found in Bessie Smith's music.
Exactly. And that unlocked the dialogue, the voice he needed for his first novel.
Which he fished February 26, 1952, Go Tell It on the Mountain.
After all those years,
Mm-hmm.
he had to leave America, isolate himself completely, to finally write that definitive American novel he'd been wrestling with.
So Go Tell It on the Mountain gets published in 53. Big launch for his career.
Mm-hmm. And right away, he shows his artistic integrity. That fight with Knopf, the publisher.
Over the ending.
Yeah. They wanted him to change it. Specifically the part where John, the protagonist, reveals essentially, I want a man.
And Baldwin wouldn't budge.
Nope. Non-negotiable.
Hmm.
That set a precedent, really.
And that fight, that theme, it kind of sets up his next project, doesn't it?
It really does. After spending time at Yaddo, the artist's residency, in 54,
He wrote that essay on Gid.
Gid as husband and homosexual. And that clarified his thinking. He realized if he was going to write about sexuality, he needed to tackle what he saw as the deep repression within white America.
Which became the core idea for the second novel.
Exactly. And his personal life was just as intense and complicated then.
The relationship with Engin Sezer, the Turkish actor.
Yeah, super intense. They became blood brothers, literally cut their arms and rubbed the blood together.
Wow. That's intense.
Very.
Yeah.
And that contrasted with this other, more difficult involvement with Arnold, a black musician.
Right. There was drama around getting him art school money.
Yeah, a lot of complexity there. And all these complicated feelings about love, identity, repression.
It all feeds into Giovanni's Room.
Which he finished in 1956. He even struggled to call it a novel.
Because it was so personal, exploring that ambivalence about his own sexuality.
Partly, yeah. And crucially, using a white American narrator, David.
Because he saw the repression of love, especially homosexual love, as more of a white issue.
That seems to be what the sources suggest, that it was fundamentally a white problem, not a black one. So David was the necessary, if painful, vehicle for exploring that.
And while all this personal and artistic struggle is happening, the civil rights movement is gaining momentum back in the States.
Right, and he gets pulled back towards it. He was apparently deeply affected by that photo of Dorothy Counts.
The 15-year-old girl being screamed at by a mob in Charlotte in '57.
Yeah, just trying to go to high school. He said that photo was a real gut punch. It shifted his focus back from Europe, back to the American struggle.
And that leads to the meeting with Martin Luther King Jr.
October 1957. A truly transformative visit, it seems.
Attending the sermon at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church.
He called it a true revelation. It helped him move past some of the cynicism he'd felt towards the black church because of his father.
And he was struck by the visual symbolism.
Yeah, the steepled red brick church standing right there, so close to the Alabama State Capitol building. Power confronting power. That moment really solidified his role, his feeling that he had to be a witness.
So the early 60s, this is peak Baldwin, right? The prophetic voice.
Absolutely. And he finds this unlikely creative haven, Istanbul, late 1961.
With Engin and Gulruz.
Yeah, he went for what was supposed to be 3 days and ended up staying for months.
And that's where he wrote the Rufus scene for Another Country.
Channeled all that melancholy, that Turkish huzun, as they call it, into that incredibly harrowing suicide scene.
And we have to mention Gulruz saving the budget.
Yes. Making homemade vodka.
Delicious Russian vodka, apparently. Made with pure alcohol, water, lemon, glycerin, brown sugar.
Saltot.
But Baldwin loved it. It's just a great little detail showing how he built this kind of chosen family life, even while writing such a dark book.
Totally. But the real weight of this period, politically, comes through in the essays.
Nobody Knows My Name in '61.
And then the huge one, The Fire Next Time, in '63.
Especially the letter from a region, in my mind, after meeting Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah, that book just cemented his voice as absolutely central to the whole conversation about race and American identity. Essential reading.
And he wasn't just writing about it, he was acting. That meeting with Robert Kennedy, May '63.
Oh, right. The famous chaotic summit in New York.
And the sources suggest Baldwin might have leaked it to the New York Times beforehand.
Yeah, possibly strategically. To guarantee headlines, put pressure on the Kennedy administration. Very savvy.
How did the meeting actually go?
Well, Kennedy apparently ended it in cold fury, felt completely blindsided. But the sources conclude it was ultimately a resounding success. It actually influenced the direction of civil rights legislation.
So Baldwin was using his fame as real political leverage.
Absolutely. He wasn't just a witness anymore. He was an active participant, shaping events.
And that commitment to truth, however uncomfortable, carried over to his theater work, too. Blues for Mr. Charlie.
1964. Yeah, huge conflict there during production.
The director, the producers, they wanted to change the third act.
Rewrite it chronologically. Basically, make it easier for white audiences to digest. Less challenging.
And Baldwin
absolutely refused. Just like with Mountain's ending. He insisted on keeping the structure, keeping the political power intact.
Ensuring the black characters literally take control of the theater, as one critic put it.
Exactly. No softening the edges for comfort or commercial appeal. That was consistent throughout his life.
But that level of stress, that constant fight, it took a toll.
A terrible toll. When he was working on the Malcolm X film script in Hollywood, this is 68, 69?
While involved with his lover Elaine.
Right. The whole environment there was apparently so toxic, so damaging.
That he attempted suicide, like Eugene Worth.
Yeah. Swallowed an overdose of sleeping pills. He said later he realized he had to split to save my life. Hollywood nearly destroyed him.
So after that Hollywood trauma, he really needed stability.
Which led him to Saint-Paul-de-Vence in the south of France. He bought property there in 1971.
From Mademoiselle Four, who was initially not a fan.
Yeah. Described as a dyed-in-the-wool racist initially. But apparently, she became completely devoted to him. Strange turn of events.
And this place became his anchor, his final home base.
It did. His brother David moved in. Bernard Hassel was there as his bodyguard, assistant.
It was the final version of that chosen family he'd been building his whole life.
Exactly, since escaping his father's house back in Harlem.
And his later fiction seems to reflect that sense of having found a home, maybe a kind of peace.
I think so. A freedom to explore different voices. Like in If Beale Street Could Talk in '74.
Narrated by Tish, who's pregnant, dealing with wrongful incarceration.
Yeah, inspired by his friend Tony Maynard's situation.
And he even wrote a children's book.
Little Man, A Story of Childhood, 1976. For his nephew and niece, using a genuine child's voice. Illustrated by Yoran Kazak.
But the really significant breakthrough in this late phase, literarily speaking, was just above my head, right?
1979. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely groundbreaking for its time.
Because it depicted a black gay character, Arthur.
Who was loved and accepted by his family, by his brothers. No apologies, no tragedy, solely because of his identity.
That feels like such a huge step from his own youth, from Giovanni's room even.
It really was. A kind of integration, a hopeful vision of queer identity within the black family narrative that felt revolutionary then.
But these later years also had sadness. Buford Delaney's decline.
Yeah, his mentor, struggling terribly with paranoia. He was placed in a psychiatric hospital, St. Anne's.
But Baldwin made sure he came back for Christmas.
He did. Christmas 1971 brought him back to St. Paul de Vence, kept him in that circle, his chosen family, right near the end. Such loyalty.
The end for Baldwin himself was quite sudden, wasn't it?
Relatively. Diagnosed with terminal cancer of the esophagus in November 1987.
The last Thanksgiving, at the welcome table, but he was too sick to eat.
Just heartbreaking.
And that final scene the sources describe.
Oh yeah, just before he died, his friend David Leeming is reading to him.
From Pride and Prejudice, Chapter 19, Mr. Collins proposing to Elizabeth Bennet.
And Baldwin, listening, manages a smile and gives his last literary judgment. So economical, so devastating.
Wow. Perfect. Right to the very end. A witness to the power of words.
Exactly. Hashtag tag outro.
What an incredible life. We've traced this journey physically and emotionally from Harlem streets through Paris cafes, that Swiss chalet, Istanbul.
To finally landing in St. Paul de Vence, that self-created home.
It's quite a map.
It really is. And, Baldwin often talked about writing as giving birth. He saw his books as trying to change the history of the world.
Which is interesting because he also often claimed just to be a witness.
Right. So here's something to think about. For someone claiming just to witness, what does his constant, deliberate, courageous choice tell us? Choosing to prioritize these stories of raw, unvarnished love, of sexual identity.
Fighting publishers, forcing difficult truths onto the stage.
Exactly. What does all that tell us about the revolutionary power he believed personal truth held? Maybe witnessing, for him, was the revolutionary act.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word,